Welcome to Travel Unraveled. I'm your host, Blake. Join me each month as I sit down face to face to spin a yarn with friends, fellow world travelers, and experts of all kinds to candidly and unapologetically discuss any and everything about travel. My guest this week is the wonderful Dr. Ariel Palanca. Dr. Palanca, welcome.
Hello.
Thank you for joining me. She is an orthopedic surgeon, and why don't you tell people what exactly it is you do medically?
Yeah, sure. So I'm dual fellowship trained in both trauma surgery and specializing in the lower extremity, and I'm currently working in a private practice in San Diego.
Wonderful. And nothing said here should be taken as medical advice. If you have any kind of concerns, consult your own physician. That being said, you are quite the world traveler. You've been to a number of very interesting places that I haven't been. Namely, I guess let's jump right into the Middle East, right? Because that's a hot topic right now. So I believe you went to Iraq and Kuwait.
I did, yeah.
So what brought you there? How was that?
I know, it's so fascinating. Well, I try to do 2 humanitarian trips a year. And usually those are based in Central America, Haiti. But one of my colleagues at Stanford, that's where I used to practice, he had known that I do these trips frequently. And they needed someone that specialized in ankle and foot reconstruction. So he came up to me during one of our lecture days and just said, "Hey, Palanca, will you come to Iraq with me?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "What?" I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "I didn't expect you to say yes." And I was like, "Well, I'm saying yes." It's like if someone comes up to you and asks you to go to Iraq, you say yes.
When was this?
This was 2 years ago. Yeah.
So very recently.
So very recently. Mm-hmm.
And what was the experience like?
It was incredible. I had no idea what to expect. I pretty much brought everything I could think of. I didn't know if I was going to have to cover my head. I didn't know what my role there was going to be. But ultimately, we flew into Kuwait. It's a little safer to do so, but it was a big pain in the butt. Actually, I would not do it that way again.
A lot of red tape?
Ever. It took us a full day to cross the border.
Wow.
A full day. And we would get stopped at one checkpoint. They would get us out of the car. They would search everything, go through all of your papers, all your documentations. And then you would actually see the next checkpoint. You could see it. You could yell at it. And we would go to that next checkpoint and they would do it all over again. This probably happened 17 times before we finally crossed the border. But once we were in Iraq, we were traveling with someone who was sort of like royalty there. And I mean, we just bypassed customs and they took us and served us mint tea in the back, totally like shady, like kind of undercover, and then asked for medical advice, which we gave them. And it was kind of this quid pro quo handshake thing. And once we were in Iraq, it was fine, but that was a huge struggle to get over there.
Do you find being a physician that it makes things easier sort of because, you know, you're kind of given a priority like, oh, well, these are doctors, so they're here to help. Like they kind of guide
I think
you through.
definitely once we were in Iraq, that's how it happened. They understand that we're there. We're there on our own dime. Like we're not, making any money. We're just there to help. So you get a lot of maybe some special treatment. Pretty much as a white woman traveling to Iraq, they assume you're military or some sort of politician. They were very surprised to hear that I was an orthopedic surgeon. But I was treated phenomenally there by everybody.
Wow.
And like I said, I really didn't know what to expect. But ultimately in Iraq, they actually have more female physicians than they do male physicians.
Really?
But they don't have any female surgeons.
Wow.
I think they've had one in the past 25 years, and she's a plastic surgeon.
Oh my gosh.
So I was able to go to the medical school one day and actually talk to them, and they was segregated. So the men sat on one side, the med students, and the women med students sat on the other side. And afterwards, one of the girls found me on Facebook and just said, I didn't know it was possible for women to be surgeons, and that's what I want to do. And that was really neat.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What about actual like staffing? Are they understaffed as well? Because I know that's and the trips I did with the medical people, that was a big problem. Was like we don't have enough nurses, we don't have enough doctors.
I didn't run into that. I think they actually have plenty of doctors, and their operating rooms are very well run. I think that there's also just a little difference in they didn't check my credentials once. which
is frightening.
It's crazy. All other countries that I've gone to, it's really rigorous. They make you show that I had to get my undergraduate transcripts before they would even let me set foot in the hospital. All your vaccinations, all of these things. And I walked in, no one had me introduce myself.
They're just taking your word for
badge.
it. You could be anybody.
I could be anyone. And I scrubbed and did a surgery.
Wow.
But they looked at the person that I was coming in with, and he's very well known and regarded, and he's like the chief of the hospital. So I walked in with him, and they just kind of shook my hand, and that was that.
But is that kind of refreshing as, a private practice person and, the technicalities you have to go through in America to just be able to just do your job and help someone?
I can't tell you. I mean, when this last trip that I went to Kenya, and the amount of paperwork that they asked from me was insane. I've never had to get so many things together in order to have permission to operate there. And there's a part of you that's saying, I'm using my vacation time, my own money to do this and to come here and to try to help. And you're making it really difficult for me to do so. So that was, at some point, I think that when you have a medical license and you don't have any malpractice suits against you and you're a functioning operating surgeon in a country, why doesn't that translate?
What did you think of Kenya? Was that your first time there?
It was my first time in Kenya. Yeah, I had been to North. It's actually my first time in Southern Africa or Central Africa, and I really liked it. I was in Kijabi, which is a small town. It's about 8,000 elevation in feet, and it's an hour and a half out of Nairobi. But it's a small town, lots of expats there, 2 hospitals, 1 orthopedic surgery residency, actually, and then they specialize in pediatric orthopedic surgery in one of the hospitals. And one of the hospitals was big, public hospital. It's more what I was expecting. 3 or 4 patients per room, pretty limited resources. They are understaffed. The rounds were a little chaotic, seeing how many people just getting shipped in. And that was a little, I don't exactly know what the word I'm trying to use here, but ultimately it was very similar to other third world countries that I had been to, whereas they also had a private hospital that is funded by Americans, Cures International, and that was a very small 32-bed hospital, but it was very clean, very organized, much more
because of the private money.
Yes, because of the private money, more civilized, because they simply have more people per patient, as opposed to this hospital where the patients maybe got care that day, maybe they were seen that day, maybe not. Also, it's all cash pay, so you can have a patient that in there that has a tibia fracture, has a femur fracture, or have something going on, and until they can raise the money, they just stay there until they and their family members can get enough money for them to actually have the surgery.
What kind of injuries and things were you seeing? Is it a lot of automobile accidents and things?
Tons of motorcycle accidents is probably the number one trauma for sure. In the Peds hospital, it's mainly congenital. And that was what was really nice about them forming that new pediatric hospital there, because they didn't have really anywhere to go. There were a couple places in Nairobi, but a lot of people will bring their children who have birth defects or things like that to that hospital. A lot of infection too, and that was the big thing. A lot of infected fractures that weren't treated appropriately initially, compound fractures that get infected, and they're big deals and hard to treat. And it's just really sad to know that it probably could have been prevented if they were simply treated correctly.
Is that lack of cleanliness and lack of clean water?
It's lack of money.
Yeah.
If they don't have enough money to get the surgery done in the first place, because it needs an immediate surgery with antibiotics and a clean out and stabilization. And if they don't have the money to do so, there's no insurance there. It's not like there is insurance. I shouldn't say that. They do have an insurance policy, but that's usually not, most people do not have insurance there. And it's not like they're going to do the surgery like they would do here in the United States and then have you pay afterwards. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
You pay or you don't get the surgery.
Yeah, that's a bit frightening that's, so much of the world has sort of systems like that, right? So you really sort of, despite all our problems with healthcare and whatever in the U.S., you can't compare to a place like Eastern Africa. Let's go back to Haiti.
Yeah.
Because that's somewhere I've never been, and you've been there many times.
Yeah, I think I've been there 5 or 6 times.
5 or 6. So what initially drove you to Haiti, and what over those periods of time, have you seen any kind of change, or how would you describe it there?
Yeah, I went first right after the earthquake. I went with a Stanford group, And even though we went as a medical team, we did very little medically because it was just such a disaster. It was really just triaging, shelter, food, water, cleanup. That earthquake was devastating.
All hands on deck
just
type of thing,
absolutely. So we didn't really, I didn't do any surgeries. We gave out some antibiotics, some medicine, wrapped some wounds, things like that. But it was mainly just helping, just relief efforts. I then went back 5 years later, and to be honest, it was really sad to me how little had changed. Roads had been mainly repaired and some of the buildings had been taken care of, but really it seemed very similar to when I was there 5 years ago, except a little less rubble. Haiti,
very, very poor country.
Haiti's a very poor country with a lot of corruption. The political scene is almost terrifying. The last time I was there, actually, 5 days later, they forced anyone that was not Haitian out of the country. They had a huge gas crisis, electric crisis. There was riots. It was getting pretty dangerous. So I had already left, but I was going to have to leave anyway. And you could feel that tension. There was lines that were piling up at the gas stations. People were just getting, you could tell, more anxious and more nervous about ultimately just having availability to resources. Nothing goes to waste there. You don't throw anything away. There are just these streets that are lined with cars that people are just picking apart for the parts to use for other things. Lots of pollution, unfortunately. Any waterbed that they have is just a million water bottles, just buckets of plastic everywhere. But the people are just amazing.
Yeah, so we'll talk about the people and what are their sort of attitudes? Because I find a lot of kind of impoverished places, you tend to find some of the happiest people sometimes.
Yeah, they know how to find joy because they have to, and they don't take anything for granted. They are definitely a joyous, they are happy people in general, and they tend to see the bright side of things, and they're also very compassionate, and they're also very generous. So they have very little, but they're very generous with what they have. Creole is the language that most people speak, and even if they speak French or they speak English, they'll still speak Creole with their families. So there is a little bit of a language barrier there, but most of the places that we work with, particularly the younger population, they speak English, and they can work and serve as translators in the hospitals or in the orphanages, which I would work. The schooling system there, most people are in private schools, and their families will scrape together money in order to get their kids into private schools because the private education is superior to the public education. I worked at an orphanage that also served as a secondary school, and all of their tests are in French. And that's where they really end up getting struggling because they rarely do anything in French. They speak in English or Creole, and then they have to take all their examinations in French. So that's a big barrier for them.
Why do they do it that way?
I don't know. Nor do the students, nor do the teachers. But that's the current policy. So unfortunately, I think a lot of kids just get overlooked because their French is bad. Not that they're not taking they're not able to answer the questions on the test.
That's interesting. So when you do these trips, is it all work, or do you tie in a little bit of vacation and personal stuff as well?
We try to do one day of at least exploration or fun. And usually one night of like going out to the local bars or just getting some beers, all getting together, because it really is necessary to decompress a little bit, especially some of the people that come for the first time. It can be a lot. You're working at this orphanage with these loving children who just are like cling on to you, and they ask you to bring them home with you. And then you see these patients in the hospital and a lot of their problems that they're having. So it can be pretty full on, especially for people that haven't been there before. So having these team decompression sessions at night, kind of talking through things, is helpful. There's a place called Boss and Blue, which we went to this last time, and you end up, it's about a 4-mile climb, pretty straight up, and you end up walking across a river crossing, and then going up into this pretty secluded area where they just have this basin of water. There's a lot of cliff jumping and like rocks that you can jump off of. So we brought 4 of the kids from the orphanage and some of the workers, and we went up there, and it was so nice just to spend that pure, jokey, fun, unadulterated time with these kids. And it was so funny because once we got up there, none of them would get into the water because it was too cold. So they're just Haitian blood. They run hot and they're just in their swimsuits freezing, and not one of them will get into the water. But all of us were jumping in, and it was a nice day.
That's fun. What's the cuisine like there?
Yeah, they love their goat. So lots of fried goat.
Who doesn't love a good goat?
You know, interestingly, like fried goat's pretty good. The breakfast is not a big thing for them. They might have a pastry here or there, but I had gone with them and they all thought I was the biggest eater possible because they all ate breakfast at home. I was coming from a hotel. I was starving. And so 3 p.m. would come around and we'd finally have lunch and I would just inhale this fried goat. So the biggest joke between all of them is how much I like fried goat just because I was so starving anytime we actually sat down to eat. They have a lot of fruit, plantains, rice, big grain bowls, those kind of things. That's mainly what we eat there.
Interesting. Yeah, I had some goat in Ukraine, and it was not bad.
It's not bad. I mean, you kind of feel sad because you see all these little baby goats running around everywhere. You're like, yeah, you're probably lunch. But yeah, it's cheap and it's available. So gosh, half the time I was just so exhausted at the end. Wasn't really focusing on the food. I remember, I had lobster once. Yeah, so they had lobster. It was pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love a good lobster.
Who doesn't?
Probably top food of mine.
And then the best is their Prestige, their beer. I don't know what it is about this beer, but it's just a light beer. It's just like a Corona or something, or a Modelo. But at the end of a long day, having that Prestige, it rings something true in me. It probably is disgusting, but I just think whenever I'm in Haiti, it's like the absolute best beer I've ever had.
I always try. Yeah, you got to try the local beer, whatever it is. I mean,
yeah, we were operating once and I was there with a resident and one of the surgeons was like, well, Prestige won the best beer in the world. And we're like, oh, when was that?
Yeah, that sounds like a lie.
Oh, 1987. And we're like, what award is this? We've never heard of this award.
They made it up.
They made it up.
Just to inspire the people.
It's still delicious.
What type of trips do you like to do? Like, what would your favorite type of destination be? Do you like islands? Do you like mountains? That's
a great question. Well, as my boyfriend will attest to, I cannot sit. So beach vacations are out for me. I have about a 20-minute maximum where I can just sit and not do anything, and then I need to be doing something. So I love trips that involve some sort of athletic activity. I love hiking. I love mountain climbing. So usually what I try to do is base something off of a destination. So a trek or a mountain climb or, a kayak trip, something like that. And then after I choose that part of my destination, I will work in more fun things as well. So let's have 2 days on an island, or let's go check out a city that has a lot of culture or something like that and make a more well-rounded trip.
Do you do a lot of research ahead of time, or do you kind of just see where the trip takes you?
I think I'm kind of right in the middle. I do like knowing where I'm going to stay, and I do like having an outline of my trip. That being said, I think you have to have some flexibility in there. And if you're trying to stick to this rigid itinerary, you're going to miss out on a lot because you might end up meeting a local who wants to have you over to their house for dinner, or there may be a festival there that you hadn't accounted for, or you may love a city much more than you imagined you would, and you want to stay there for a few more days. And I think that you need to give in to those things, because if you don't and you just try to stay on this itinerary that Lonely Planet or photos told you to do, you're going to miss out on a lot.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's something I would like to do more going forward. I don't really ever do that. I'm pretty I've got the itinerary. I know exactly. And then, yeah, there's flexibility built in. But there have been places I've been like, man, this place is awesome. I should stay 3 or 4 more days. And I've never really done that. But you've done that?
Yeah, definitely. And it's just it's not only more fun. I think that a lot of the times when you make your itinerary in advance, you're either doing it on recommendations of other people, or it's from websites or books. They're going to cater to the tourist. They're going to say, what do we think tourists like to do? Whereas if you go and actually immerse yourself somewhere, you're going to find out what what the locals do just on a normal day-to-day basis, and you're going to get a much better idea of what that place actually is. And if you just allow yourself to be able to do that, you're going to just really see what the country is for the country itself, not for what tourists get to see when they come for a couple days.
Yeah, that's a great point. Really, just kind of immersing into the culture, I think you understand the people a lot better. You understand what makes that place special or unique. How's the move to SoCal been?
Thanks for asking. We love it. You know, I dig San Francisco so hard. I lived in the Bay Area for 10 years. I absolutely adored it. Had so many good friends out there. You are never missing out on something to do. If you want to do something, you can do whatever you want. You want to go have a beer, you want to go for a hike, you want to go for a bike ride, you want to go to a concert, you want to go to a museum, you want to go to a great restaurant. It's just all right there. But the Bay Area is getting hard. It is getting so overpopulated.
It's getting crowded, yeah.
It's crazy.
And expensive.
And in psycho expensive. I lived right by AT&T Park, and now the Chase Center just went in where the Warriors are playing. So the parking spots around my house have meters that cost $7 an hour until 10 p.m. every night.
Oh, my God.
If you can find a parking spot. And I was commuting and walking over a homeless man that was probably defecating in the streets half the time when I was walking to the train station to go to work. So there's some unsavory parts about San Francisco as well.
There's definitely some crazies running around.
Anytime there's a poop map for a city, you know that there's probably something wrong.
That's real?
It's a live poop map where people say like, yeah, someone shit in the street right here.
Don't come down Market Street.
Don't walk on this like block right here.
There's a hot dookie
Yes,
sitting
that's
there.
exactly what it is.
Oh my God, that's so ridiculous.
And I think that people take like pride in kind of the rawness and the edge of San Francisco. And for a while, I really enjoyed all of that too. And then I think sometimes you get over it and you just want your day-to-day life to not be so hard. And I just found day-to-day life, commuting, parking, paying for things, it was just getting pretty obnoxious. So now
on top of the career.
On top of, working a lot and being in the hospital. Exactly. So no, it was a big career shift, going from academics to private practice. And even though it's not that big of a life shift, Northern California to Southern California, the vibe is just different.
Yeah.
People are chiller. My patients are happier. Like everyone's just kind of nicer and more friendly, more welcoming. Just the fact that you can get home and watch the sunset on the beach when you're done at a long day. It's those little things that really contribute to your quality of life.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people, they sort of get stuck in like, I have to do this, I have to do that. So to have the awareness and be like, hey, these things outside of my career are kind of bogging my life down rather than it should enhance your life, right? You should be able to separate work and play and have some kind of boost to your life in your downtime. All right, let's take a break because we have to go to brunch.
All right.
And then we'll pick this up when we come back.
Maybe we'll be a little more saucy when we come back.
Yeah, let's hope so. 3 saucy hours later. We're back with Dr. Ariel Palanca, and we did a hard LA brunch.
Hard.
So libations flowing, so we're a little loose now, but let's continue.
We think it's going to be better.
We do think it's going to be better.
We also need to introduce Robin Quivers.
Oh yes. Yes, I forgot.
An addition.
Yes. This is, for now I'm going to call him my Robin Quivers, but Tom Scherbart, one of, top 3 friends in life, probably.
Because people are gonna listen to this and then be like, I'm definitely top 3.
Great guy, mediocre conversationalist.
Also dating my guest, Dr. Palanca.
Hello.
So
the only way I'd agree to this interview is if I was in the room.
That's right. He's pretty much like that stripper chaperone guy. Not that I've ever.
What? We don't know what you're talking about.
Anyways, we're going to circle back to Iraq.
Ooh, okay. Fair enough.
Because I think there were things unsaid. You were explaining to me in our off time just about sort of your day-to-day logistics of what was happening in Iraq. So can you elaborate a little more on
Yeah, definitely.
what it was like day to day?
I mean, it's hard to talk about because I feel like ultimately my experience there was artificial. It is not what normally someone that lives in Iraq would have for their day-to-day life, nor someone visiting there would have for their day-to-day life. But I stayed in an international hotel where every time you walked in or out, you were searched and you went through a metal detector. I was in an armored car with 2 armed guards anywhere I went at any time.
Did you hire these people, or
No.
how did you get?
This was all through. So the chair and the medical advisor of the medical school as well as the hospital, he is the one that facilitates people coming over to help teach, to help show like different surgical techniques, ultimately to help their surgeons, their medical students, and their patients. These pretty unique techniques and surgical skills that they don't have there yet. So they want you to love that place and feel very comfortable when you come visit. So you come back and you invite other people to come back.
No, but we're interested in who the armed guards were.
Who the armed
how did
guards
you
were.
get this security?
Were they Americans?
have-
Were they Baghdadi?
They
Is that a word?
Yeah, people from
Bag-
Baghdad are called Baghdadi.
Baghdadi.
They're all Baghdadis.
They were local, definitely. They were of the Iraqi
What
guard.
were they wearing? Body armor?
I did not touch them
Machine guns?
intimately
Yeah,
to
but what kind
know
of guns did
if
they
they had
have?
armor on their body, but they had these large guns that spanned their torso with like
Assault rifles.
I guess so, with like ammunition that went around their bodies.
What kind of car were you in? What like a
Bulletproof.
bulletproof
Yeah,
suburban?
it was like a SUV, black,
Really?
whatever.
That
Yeah.
kind of makes you a target though if you're in that kind of thing because everyone knows there's someone important in there.
Yeah, well, I'd rather be in a bulletproof targeted vehicle than be in a non-bulletproof vehicle.
Let me ask you this: Did you get a sense that like the local people feel like it's a dangerous place, or are they just going about their life?
Both. So part of me actually was a little disheartened at the end of the trip. I actually felt like I got flown in to operate on people's wives and family members. Dead serious.
Not people who were injured.
Not
from
people who
wars
are
and
injured or
IEDs.
like devastated, because some of the things that I do are a little what you could call elective or boutique surgery, and I'm known for that. And so I was there, and they knew my reputation, and they knew I was there. So all of a sudden, I'm operating on everyone's moms, wives, grandmas, etc. It's like I didn't come to Iraq to help people that are already super well-to-do.
You wanted some boots on the ground. Like,
Yeah,
I'm really making the
absolutely.
impact.
Why am I here if I'm not actually making a big difference in everyone's day-to-day lives? But even like, it's so interesting. Even the richest of the rich, and that's that 5%. They have these beautiful homes that are built on the top of landfills. You go to visit them, and that was kind of my piece of actually Iraqi living is when I went to their homes, and you're in this like it's a castle, and you see their furniture. They have a 7-piece sofa set that is of velvet, and you know what? Like it probably cost millions of dollars. You don't even understand the price point. They even told me the lot that they bought that house on was a $5 million lot. These are real bills.
Yeah,
real
you don't
money.
think of Iraq and someone buying a $5 million piece of land.
And they have an armed guard at all times in a little like almost toll booth outside of their house, and they live there. The guard lives in this little booth watching over this home.
He lives in a booth.
But yeah, he lives in the booth.
I'm coming out of the
He lives in the booth. He lives
He's got like a little bed and
Yeah,
refrigerator in there.
lives in the booth. But it's on a landfill. It's literally a vacant lot. There's just trash and just, it's not nice. It smells bad. There's trash for heaps to get
I'm
there.
assuming there's no infrastructure for
No
trash
infrastructure
removal.
to get there. It's just like on this road that hasn't been paved, and there's multiple potholes. And then I got to talk to their kids, and their kids were amazing, but they don't play outside. They can't play outside. They're not on sports teams. They don't know what a park is. They don't know what a swing set is. Like, they don't actually have a life outside of their school and their home. They live in a $5 million lot and probably a $20 million home. When they vacation to Dubai.
Yeah.
And maybe at that point they can go to a water park. but they go to school and they come home and they spend no time outside of armored walls.
Did you encounter any kind of censorship or like controlled media?
No, but I guess I wasn't pushing that envelope either.
Were you headscarfed?
I didn't. So that's I brought scarves. I really did not know what I was going to need to do.
But a lot of women were not.
No, a lot of women were. It was funny because I asked them the first day, the only thing you want when you're in a country like that, you want to respect. And I'm not going to, in some respects, again, if someone asked me to wear a burqa or hijab or like something like to cover my face, I would have said no. Like I am in no way going to promote anything that I find degrading to women at the same point.
What if Tommy just told you he wanted you to cover your face?
Fair point.
Like shut your mouth and cover your face like
Yeah,
every
can you
day of
just
our lives.
cover
Just
your
kind of go
face
like,
more?
when in Rome, babe. When in Rome.
I wouldn't probably blame him because I have a big mouth.
When in Baghdad.
But no, it was just like I finally like asked one of the surgeons there. I was like, "Hey, I don't want like, what am I supposed to do here? I just want to be. I want to respect your culture, and I don't care if I have to wear a scarf over my hair. Like, no big deal." And he goes, "You're not Muslim.
Yeah.
We know you're not Muslim.
Yeah.
We don't care." They're like, women wear headscarves in our culture on their own volition because they're honoring their God to do so. It's not honoring their husbands.
Yep.
It's not honoring the men of the culture. It's to honor their God, and they choose that. And we know you're not Muslim, so it would be weird if you had a headscarf on. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
And it was really refreshing to like hear that from them. But what's interesting when I was there, and I asked a little bit more about that when I was talking to both the women and the men, before Saddam Hussein had taken over reign or dictatorship, whatever you want to call it, when he was there, the women were almost all uncovered, all of them. They weren't covering their hair, they weren't covering their face. When he came in and put the restrictions on,
Tighten the noose.
the women went back to it not because he told them to, but as a harken back to their religion and their tradition, because they were trying to like seek out this strength in this history and roots of what they were before he was in power.
Wow.
So that actually was a shift, and it was not oppressive. It was an ownership,
of
and it was
strength.
actually aggressive. They're like, we're going back to this because this is somehow a way that we can quietly and safely rebel against his rule and his reign.
Wow, that's very
I never
interesting.
heard that.
Nothing I would have ever known in a million years.
You were saying something in our aside off mic about you stayed in one of Saddam's
yeah.
something or other.
And again, this is another ultimately interesting thing that these are things that you would never know unless you were there and present and talking to these people. Because you talk to them, these surgeons about what it was like living under Saddam Hussein, and that was ultimately communism. And they were like, we were paid like 35 cents a day. Didn't matter how much.
To be a surgeon.
Yes, didn't matter how much we were working or not. We were paid that much because everyone was paid the same. They were able to eat meat, I think 3 or 4 times a year. It was a celebration.
Yeah, a year.
When they actually got meat, like chicken or beef, or I'm not sure if they ate beef, but a red meat or a white meat,
Yeah,
that was a
goat,
treasure.
lamb, whatever.
Yes,
Yeah.
Probably
and
fried
they got
goat.
that like
Probably fried goat.
Yeah.
It's very popular.
Fried goat.
Fried goat.
It all
fried goat.
comes
All
back to fried goat.
I think this should definitely be the name of this podcast.
Yeah,
Ariel
fried goat.
loves her
Ariel Palanca and the fried goat.
Yeah.
all she eats. But we ended up having a lunch, and the lunch was on a boat. So we're on this boat, and we're in this channel, and this is a massive.
In the Gulf or it?
No, it
In a
was
river
in a
or-
river.
yeah.
The Basra River. And it was this large boat, and there was obviously a captain, and we were going up and down, almost like a yacht, but it's filthy. The area around, like
Filthy
it is
yachting.
not the yacht itself, but like all like trash in the river.
Oh, yeah.
And it's weird. It's almost like they have dumpsters that grow mansions, because you just see all of this filth and this trash, and then there's this palace that's growing in the middle of it. because it's the extremes of wealth and poverty absolutely juxtaposed.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing to see. And you see it, got a great view of it when you're going up and down. And then finally they're like, oh, come. And they're giving me this tour. And we go to this bedroom. They're like, sit on this bed. And the linens were beautiful and everything was ornate and brocaded and silver and gold. And like, sit on this bed. And I sat on this bed and they're like, that's Saddam Hussein's bed.
Wow.
What? And they're like, yeah. Like,
So you sat on
they're
Saddam's
like,
bed.
I did. And he had a gold-plated toilet.
I used to have one of those.
Yeah, I took a pee in a gold-plated
remember the gold toilet?
You did? You had what?
Tommy remembers this.
Absolutely.
How do you have a gold toilet?
It was my grandpa's.
He's very full of himself.
Yeah. I love my opulence.
Obviously.
It was fake. It wasn't real gold.
Yeah.
But
I think this one was gold-plated. Either way, it was just like that thought was, what the hell is happening
were
here?
you thinking, like,
Yeah.
has Saddam
I
had
was
sex
like,
on this bed?
Kinda, a little bit. And with who? You know, all those things were going through my head. But it was just, so the University of Basra inherited a lot of Saddam's things when he was assassinated because they didn't really know what to do with them. And why not?
I read an article about something.
Yeah, why
like
not
that.
give
Yeah.
that to education? But they just used this houseboat for like lunches. It's not used for anything else. But what's so interesting is that after they acquired the boat, which they didn't know, they were doing some renovations on it, and they found this secret passage. And there are 8 bedrooms
In the boat?
and 2 bathrooms hidden under fake walls.
In a boat?
There's multiple. This is not a boat.
It's a yacht.
Yeah.
It's like a cruise ship.
Seems like you couldn't hide rooms
It's
in
a
boat.
cruise ship, though.
Oh,
It
okay.
already has 12 rooms and 7 bathrooms. They had this entire other section of the boat just for hiding.
Wow. How long were you there?
I was there for almost 2 weeks,
Working for the entirety.
the whole time. Again, these are kind of places like, how do you vacation?
No, yeah.
How do you, I had lovely times. I mean, the professor there that was also the chief of medical everything there, his whole thing was, Basra is your second home. Iraq is your second home. They want you going back to the States saying,
Of course.
Iraq is a beautiful place and their people are beautiful, and it's true, but they really drive that home.
Yeah.
This Professor Thamdan, he was kidnapped twice for ransom, held for weeks, starved, jailed, all the things. Like, he's lived a life.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Because I go to a lot of places, people, are like, it's dangerous. You're so crazy for going there.
Like Fresno and Bakersfield.
Yes, like
Mainly.
Stockton. And
Right.
obviously, you're going to be on high alert when you have armed guard detail everywhere you go. But how afraid were you when you were there? Like, at a certain point, did you just kind of be like, it's not that scary? Or were you tense the entire time?
Zero. I wouldn't even have accepted going if I thought that's the way I was going to feel. Ultimately, you think about the state of where we live now, I'm more nervous to go to Florida. The chance that I die in a mass shooting in Florida
Yeah.
or California,
In a movie theater.
literally, versus going to
At a
Iraq.
concert. Yeah.
Most people knew if they saw me and they saw what I was doing there, they knew I was trying to be there for good. Ultimately, I was trying to help.
You also stand out. You're like
A little bit.
white gal with red hair.
There's this picture of me, and I was staying at a military hotel. So at one point, like the Iraq detail was staying there too. And one of the guys there just thought it was really funny. And he had me go sit with all these Iraqi soldiers, which of course they also loved. And there's 30 Iraqi soldiers all in camo and me. White-faced, freckled,
Where's this
red
photo?
hair.
I've never
Just,
seen
you
this
know,
photo.
Yeah. And it's just like, come on. But that was sort of what it was. And it wasn't a thing. But I didn't see another white woman the entire time I was there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not stunned by that, but yeah, that is still surprising. You would think there would be some kind of
Something.
All right, well, we are going to hop into rapid fire.
Oh, we have more. Okay.
Favorite city of all time, I'm assuming.
God, I hate that question. He knows I hate that question.
This is rapid fire.
Yeah, rapid
You've
fire.
already
Hurry
taken too
up.
much time.
Favorite city?
Prague.
Whoa.
Prague's solid. I like Prague. Best beer I've ever had, Prague. Hands down.
Yeah.
Like, no, not even a second. Favorite meal in that city? So what's the best thing to eat in Prague?
Oh, God. I don't know. I ended up doing a bunch of absinthe because I got lost and so people took
Doing
pity
absinthe?
on me.
Yeah,
And
it's not like
so-
cocaine.
Drink it?
Well, yeah, but I was all high. And I had some meals, but I don't remember any of the food I had there. So, dumb
Just make something
question.
up. Say unicorn dust or
Dumb
something.
question. Absinthe is my favorite
All right, there
meal
you go.
that I had in
Absinthe. That's
Prague.
what you need, Prague.
Liquid diet.
Liquid diet.
I can tell this is written by your boyfriend.
No.
What city did you have a romance in?
Answer the question.
It sounds almost like an accusation.
None.
You've never had a foreign romance, or even a domestic
foreign
one. You've never gone to
romance?
Atlanta and
No,
met a guy.
that's not the question. I don't want to know about Atlanta or domestic.
You want me to have a romance in that country?
If you
loves an
did you
international.
have a travel romance?
I mean, probably, but like, honestly, like
Probably.
nothing I can even think about. Like, that's how much I'd have to rack my brain.
That's the perfect answer.
I didn't have an
That's the
Australian
perfect answer.
boyfriend, and I lived there twice. I didn't have a Spanish boyfriend.
Tara
I lived there.
she had a Greek romance.
Ooh, I bet it was
I
hot
bet.
too. I've never been to Greece.
She lets you know that?
Give me
Oh, yeah.
give me a hall pass, Tommy,
loves-
and let me go to Greece.
She
and
loves
I'll-
those young Greek
and
boys.
I'll change my answer.
What about a city with the best nightlife?
I think the city with the most unpredictably great nightlife was Brisbane, Australia. Brisbane is totally looked over.
I went to Brisbane. It was awesome.
It's awesome. But no one's
Loved
like,
it.
oh, I'm gonna go to Brisbane. Like
No,
people
I
don't
loved
say
it.
that. Like I'm gonna go to Sydney. I'm gonna go to Adelaide, or maybe I'll go to Outback. I'm gonna go Perth. I'm gonna do WA. Brisbane's awesome. It's sunny. They have this little city beach. They have city beach where they like made a beach on a river. Tons of day drinking.
Oh, yeah, I did the river
They have
cruise.
a
It was awesome.
crazy whiskey like bar
The
there.
koala sanctuary.
Yeah, good like musical nightlife. So fun. Like Brisbane, bachelor parties, bachelorette parties. Brisbane, think about it. It's so fun.
That's awesome. That's a deep cut. I like that one.
Oh God.
So I'm laughing at these Tommy questions.
No.
Where would you take your honeymoon? Wink, wink. He's fishing.
There's no winks.
He's fishing.
There's no
for
winks.
hints,
It's a
yeah.
good question.
All right, where would I honeymoon? I'd probably honeymoon in Bali or Fiji.
Have you been to those places?
I've been to Fiji, not been to Bali, but Bali is a quick flight over from Australia. Fiji I loved because it was like you could be active, you could do like it's a beach vacation, but you could still do. You can be like super active with still getting that very tropical, awesome island vibe, chilling out vibe.
Well, I was just in Bali, and it is awesome.
Would you honeymoon there?
Well, I mean, if you guys ever want to, I have so many recommendations. Like, we stayed in some amazing hotels. It is really touristy
Yeah.
and very, like, it literally felt like the brunch we did today. Like, I thought I was on Abbot Kinney
Okay.
Whoa.
in the downtown Ubud.
Do you think it's because so what I find is if you stay at the nicest places, you're going to be treated like a tourist. If you
No,
stay
no,
at a
I'm talking
five-star
about
place,
the town. Like, the town was,
okay.
like, wall-to-wall shopping.
Oh no.
And
I
you're
hate
like,
that.
oh, but I also thought that was the best part of Bali. Like, we did Canggu and like the beach towns. I don't know, like people love them, but for us, we were like, I wish we stayed in Ubud in the jungle, and it just felt like any generic touristy beach town.
Not that you could be in. Yeah.
And you're like, all right, like everyone's a tourist there. Where at least in the kind of jungly areas, it felt more authentic, and you just sort of had to like pick and choose where you wanted to go. But it's amazing because they have infrastructure. So like you can do the wild jungle getaway, but still like, oh, I forgot my toothbrush. I can buy one. You know, like you have stuff you can do that's convenient.
Sort of a mixed review.
No, I loved Bali. Like I want to go to different places in Indonesia.
That's what I was
going
to say. Like I think that
Java
you
and like
just did
Sumatra.
Bali in a way that you're like, I might not do it the same way again.
I just expected
Not that
different. I thought like,
yeah.
oh, yoga's everywhere. No, like more yoga right down the street in LA. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I was like, oh, like
I did more yoga last week than I did here in Bali.
yeah. It's just everyone's just talking about it. So
Yeah,
you're like,
dogging.
Yeah.
you have all these like things you think it's gonna be, and then you get there, and like any place, you make it what you want it to be. Okay, I like this one. What country or region has the best looking men?
Ooh. I would say Denmark.
Denmark. That is so random.
I know, but it's just they're all beautiful. And they're well dressed.
Do you agree, Tommy?
Like they're like well tailored. They're all
Well, I mean,
bike.
that's all the
They all
Nordic
bike.
countries, aren't they?
Denmark.
They all bike everywhere, so they're all fit, and they all wear like they're like skinny cut pants, and they're like nice shoes, and they have this coif, and they're all just very pleasant.
So
and
everything
polite,
I'm
too.
not, pretty
Yes.
much.
The
Skinny pants
antithesis
and
of
hair.
the antithesis of you, Blake.
I was thinking of that Simpsons episode where they go to like Norway and Marge, this guy from Norway, falls in love with Marge, and Marge goes, "Why do you like me? You're gorgeous." He goes, "In Norway, I'm a 5."
It's true. No, it's true.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I understand this question.
Yeah, the question is, would you rather punch your mom in the face or a French bulldog?
A cute French bulldog.
Yeah,
not
a
even an
gorgeous
ugly
French
one.
bulldog. Or your mother.
A French bulldog. I'm not gonna punch Lori in the face.
You're going to punch a dog in the face?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, I am.
really thought you were going to go the other way.
You thought I was gonna punch Lori?
I really did.
Would you punch Wendy Scherbart in the face?
Over a helpless
Ever?
dog?
Yes.
I think I would because it's
You
a human.
would.
It's
Oh
a human
my God.
versus a helpless animal.
No, because the dog probably thinks you're playing.
I'm
Have you ever
pretty
seen?
sure.
Have you ever seen dogs play? Dogs play and they like bite their necks off, but they're playing. The bulldog would probably think I was just like kidding around.
And to be fair, they already do have kind of a smashed snout.
yeah, Lori Palanca would she'd disown me if I punched her in the face.
You're only saying that because she can listen
What
to
a
this and Bruce Willis
question.
can't. But Lori,
Sorry,
I
Mom.
agree.
Sorry, Lori. Champagne 3. Tommy had that one ready to go in his brain.
Do you have a favorite animal?
favorite animal? French bulldog.
How about a favorite wild animal?
I like a moose.
That's super random too. Denmark and moose.
I like a moose. Yeah.
They're
majestic.
they are majestic.
And they could kill you.
So the thing about French bulldogs is Ariel actually likes pigs.
Yeah.
She
love
finds them
pigs.
adorable.
Oh my God, we want to get a pig so
So
bad.
yeah, I
but-
would get a pig first. But the more socially acceptable thing to do is get a French bulldog.
Well, you're in SoCal now, so
Yeah,
you can
that's
get a
fair.
pig.
Yeah, it'd be like number 2 to that.
I've seen 2 pigs at the local Starbucks.
Yeah. And I would walk my pig.
What?
In the f***ing Starbucks.
Yeah.
Like,
It's probably a
They're the
support
little
animal.
mini ones?
yeah, but
They're not
I've
full
also
pot
heard
bellies?
they get huge. Like, there is
Well,
no
you have to like
tiny-
starve them.
Yeah, I don't wanna do that.
And you don't want to do
Mini pigs
that,
is
so
not
then
a
you
real
feed
thing.
them and then they get big.
They're just starved pigs.
They're just
Yeah.
starved pigs. All right. Well, I think we'll end on that note. Everyone, don't starve your pig.
Don't feed your pig. Let him get to be 80 pounds.
Just get a French bulldog.
That's what the pig wants.
Or just get a dog.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to my wonderful guest, Dr. Ariel Palanca. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thanks, Blake. This was
And
sweet.
for all you listeners out there, until next time, thank you for tuning in to Travel Unraveled. Bye-bye.